How do you explain this in details to us na
Yes.
Me
first part.
How many of those are needed in a power plant?
Okay. Doon po sa atin, sa PNPP1, 121 po yan. Ang pinapalitan po dyan is 1/3 every 18 months. So 18 months, 18 months, 18 months. So 1/3 of that is 40.
So what is the lifespan of this?
4.5 years po.
4.5.
4.5 years. No? It will remain in the reactor for 4.5 years. Ang laman po yan, yung pellet po na yun na picture. Yung hawak po ng kamay na pellet, parang gummy bears kalaki. No? Parang gummy bears kalaki. So, ilang daang libong piraso ng pellet po yan. No? Ang isang pellet po, 1 toneladang coal ang katumbas.
Where's that source of pellets? Is that important?
Yes po, that is imported. That is enriched, it's processed. We buy fuel assemblies. We can buy uranium, but we cannot use it. We need to send it to a processor to make it into fuel assemblies. No? Pero ang yearly consumption po natin, 26 pieces of this. Of course, you cannot change 26 pieces. You need to wait for a year and a half, so that's 40 pieces. No? That would be imported. That is worth about per year about $20 million. At ang katumbas po yan ng imported coal is worth between $700 million to $1 billion depending on the price. Nung nagkaroon ng gulo po, nung inatake ng Russia ang Ukraine, sumipa pa lagpas pa ng $1 billion yan. If you remember, Indonesia unilaterally said, ayaw na namin mag-export ng coal. Anong ginawa po natin? Ang ating mga matataas na opisyalis, pumunta po doon, lumuhod sa Indonesians. Is that good? That shows a lack of energy independence. And it's because of fossil fuels. Eh kung magkagulo po sa West Philippine Sea, eh di ba, we need 3 ships per 600 megawatts lang yan eh. Kaya kataan. No? Eh, we're talking of what? 12,000 megawatts. Ilang barko po yun ang coal na nag-deliver buwan-buwan. Eh kung makapit po yun, o di, wala na ng kuryente.
So, Bataan is put in operation. How the entire country can be benefited from this?
Bataan is only one plant. Ang aspiration ko po bilang isang pro-nuclear advocate is at least 16,000 megawatts of nuclear by 2045. And I think I'm being very, very conservative. Up to 32,000 megawatts of nuclear by 2045. That's up to us. That's up to the aspiration of the common Filipino. If we can convince the common Filipino that this is the solution, and they will shake the politicians and say to them, enough of your bullshit, we need this cheap energy source, we want to be fossil fuel independent, then they build 32,000 megawatts by 2045. Tignan niyo po at 16,000 megawatts, ang sabi po ni NEDA, we need to double our current capacity of 22,000 lahat-lahat na po by 2040. Right? So if we build 16,000, that is only additional capacity. We have not retired a single coal plant or gas plant. Wala po tayong gagalawin doon sa luma. Bago lang yan. Eh kung gusto mong i-retire ang luma, we're talking at least double. So yung po ang mathematics po niyan. Napakasimple. It's not mathematics. It's arithmetic po. Yes.
Sir, what is the biggest risk of operating a anti-nuclear power plant? If there is it manageable? Is it manageable?
There's what risk are you talking about? Can you put safety down, please? Oh, iyan ang nuclear, no? Alam mo bakit may numero doon sa nuclear? Dahil doon sa mga namatay sa Chernobyl. Right? Chernobyl had no containment. Lahat po ng nuclear plant sa kanlurang bansa ay may containment. So, if you disregard Chernobyl, that would read zero. Ibig sabihin, over the last 60 years, walang kahit siyang namatay o nasaktan dahil sa nuclear plant. So, ano ba ang risk ang pinag-uusapan natin? In fact, yan po ang basis doon sa sinabi ko kanina na dahil iniwasan po natin ang nuclear, kasi nag-call po tayo yung nasa right side. So, we caused the sickness and death, early death of thousands of Filipinos dahil iniwasan natin ang nuclear. Bakit hindi nyo kinriticize? Kayo media So, why didn't we criticize the premature deaths? Because of the pollution caused by coal. Up to now, you're not criticizing that. Up to now. You keep on criticizing nuclear, which would have saved so many lives. But if I said nuclear already saved 2 million lives, that's the hard numbers.
So there have been several famous nuclear accidents around the world. Only one famous accident involving technology like BNPP, and not a single injury occurred, and the plant kept operating. I mean, even at Chernobyl, the worst nuclear plant disaster ever, the nuclear plant kept operating to make commercial electricity daily for 14 years after Chernobyl blew up. It still made electricity for Ukraine. In fact, the Ukrainian government didn't even want to shut down Chernobyl. They got a payment from European countries, 200 million, which they turned around and used to start another nuclear plant. And then the workers of Chernobyl were quite irritated that their own nuclear plant that they said, we already made safety upgrades so it wouldn't blow up again. They were upset that Chernobyl was shut down. So if the most famous nuclear accident in world history didn't even shut down the nuclear plant where the accident happened, and that the plants of the type like BNPP have never had a fatal nuclear core accident, then I think that that's as good as safety record gets in this imperfect world. I think that's an astonishing fact that needs to be taken into consideration.
That can you show Geraldine Thomas? I want to ask you a question. How many people do you think got hurt or died at Chernobyl? How many people died at Chernobyl? If you listen to the news, especially the foreign media, you would think that millions of people died at Chernobyl. From 1986, when it happened, until today, less than 50 have died. Most of those were first responders, firemen, around 34 of them. The rest died of leukemia, not leukemia, thyroid cancer, not leukemia, thyroid cancer. In fact, 2,000 children got thyroid cancer, but most of them got cured. Why did they get thyroid cancer? Because the government did not stop them from consuming the local milk. And the cows were eating the iodine 131 on the grass, and so it got transmitted into their milk, and they got thyroid cancer. But you know, iodine 131, the half-life is 8 days. In 60 days, it's completely gone. If the government, the Soviet Union, had stopped the consumption of milk and had given iodine tablets, maybe 99% of those children would not have gotten thyroid cancer. So it is completely preventable, but they didn't do anything. Do we have a dairy industry in the Philippines? No, we don't. So how will the children get contaminated milk? We don't have a dairy industry. So these are the things that you need to, ito po dapat yung suriin. No? These facts. Geraldine Thomas, I met her in Taiwan, is the founder of the Chernobyl Tissue Bank. She's a cancer expert and a radiation expert. She has all the facts about Chernobyl. She does the count. Pag meron namatay dyan o nagkasakit, siya po ang pumupunta para i-record. Tignan yung documentation kung totoo ba o hindi. So siya ang nagsabi po sa akin na less than 50 so far. And you know what? The prophecy of apocalypse in Chernobyl is running out of time to happen. Kasi yung mga tao doon already living their whole entire normal lives. So soon, hindi na nila makiklaim. It's all estimated. It's all estimated. But it's not happening. People are not dying.
I just want to quickly add to that. There are some people who never left the Chernobyl exclusion zone. Mostly women, they just didn't want to leave their home. And those babushkas in Chernobyl, they're still living just fine. They're in their ripe old age now. In Fukushima also, there were some farmers who didn't want to eliminate their cattle. And they've become great living subjects of what it's like for large mammals to live in a place after a nuclear accident has happened. And those cattle, the scientists have studied them, they're all living long, healthy lives. So we have to question how dangerous, even in the worst case scenario, is nuclear. And by the way, I want to look at the other side of the equation. I think we focus too much on these very isolated accidents. Every single year, about 20% of electricity in America is produced by just less than 100 reactors. And it's year after year, safe, 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 safe. You never hear about it. I forgot how much is it in Europe. I think a quarter of the electricity is produced by nuclear power. And it's like we have decades of safety within Europe, you know, like Chernobyl's in Russia. And why don't we talk about that? Perfect safety records over decades, producing about a quarter of the continent's electricity. We don't hear about that because nothing went wrong. But we need to look at
sensational.
We need to look at what went right with nuclear to really see each other.
So in the interest of time, we will be having just one last question. For those who still have their question, you can email it to us via Sir Alvin.
Two last questions.
Sure.
But we're very, very happy that you are asking questions and you're very engaged. This is a really good practice that what we're doing. We should do this more often. I will organize more like this because we need more. We need to talk about it. We need to talk about the fuel assembly. We need to talk about the fears. And then later on, we will all go to the good story. The good story which is hindi na tayo magiging mahirap, right? My question?
Good morning po. Given na yung energy mix, nuclear na, obviously. As you mentioned, kailangan natin mag-bring the framework energy mix. For a start po, ano po yung ideal na percentage na dapat meron tayo nuclear?
Can you put on the screen? So, this is what France did, no? In reaction to the 1973 oil crisis. So they decided that they were going to have fossil fuel independence. And in 15 years, they went to 70% nuclear. Now they're at 80% nuclear. And they decided to build more nuclear plants because they want to electrify transportation, electric vehicles, right? How can you charge your electric vehicle with solar at night while you're sleeping? You can't. You cannot. It doesn't work, right? So you need something reliable to charge your storage with, your electric cars. So, what happened to France as a consequence of their wanting fossil fuel independence? They became clean accidentally. It was not their purpose to become green and clean. It came for free because they went for fossil fuel independence. So it's completely different from what we're trying to do. We're trying to spend money to become clean and green. Whereas we could get it by trying to become fossil fuel independent and get free, clean, and green. Well, why are we having to spend more money? Is wind and solar going to make our electricity cheaper? No, it's going to make it more expensive. And I'm blaming our DOE for under-informing our president.
I just wanted to mention that what technology did France use to do all this? Technology like BNPP, but many of their plants not as recent as BNPP. So in other words, France actually delivered an amount of clean energy that has never before been seen in human history with wind and solar, and still almost no country in the whole world, despite immense investment of trillions of dollars, almost no country is able to get up to high levels of wind and solar, because as they start to get more, it defeats itself. Whereas in France, they just added industries that could use the power. They added electrification in people's homes to use the extra power because it's available all the time. They could justify telling the public, if you install electricity equipment in your home for heating, we will have the cheap electricity for you to use. They were able to do that because it's highly predictable when the nuclear electricity comes. And they did it with plants that, to all of us here, you'd have to be a nuclear engineer to tell the difference between BNPP inside and their plants. Same design heritage from Westinghouse. PWR, the type of plant that has never had a single death or injury from nuclear meltdown, not once. That's an astonishing gift that you have one of these treasures like France built. You already have it in your country, except yours is built earthquake tough, much stronger than theirs. There's another thing. If BNPP were the style of plant at Fukushima Daiichi, there would not have been the disaster and the leak of radiation around the country. It would not have happened if only the Japanese had had BNPP. The other plants they had that were closer to BNPP in design, no trouble. One more thing, Japan had this major famous nuclear accident. They were rushing back into nuclear energy. Ukraine had the worst nuclear accident in world history. They didn't even want to shut down Chernobyl nuclear plant, and they have, I think, either the second or the third highest percentage of nuclear electricity in the whole world, way above 50% today. And they're the country with the most famous nuclear accident. USA had 3 Mile Island meltdown. They didn't even shut down 3 Mile Island nuclear plant, and we're the biggest producer of nuclear electricity today. And every part of our politics, from Democrat to Republican, they are all working together in Congress now. And with the president now, Democrats and Republicans working together now to build nuclear plants in our allied countries as quickly as possible. So if you want a good deal from America, at least, now's the time to stand up and say you want this plant back on.
Yes, so that's my answer, no? How much nuclear? As much as we can get social license for. So it's up to us. It's up to the public. It's up to, I'm not even pushing for BNPP to run. That's a political question that only the Congress or the President can answer. I would support BNPP running because I think it's totally stupid not to run a fully paid for plant. But I'm not going to push it because I might jeopardize nuclear per se in the Philippines. But I am trying to convince my constituency in Labrador, in the 2nd District of Pangasinan, to host nuclear power plants. Because I want them to ask for free electricity in exchange for hosting it. And I told them, can you imagine if you have the cheapest electricity in the Philippines? Do you think investors will come here and build industry and businesses, and we would create lots of jobs? And it's a no-brainer. They can see it without my telling them that. So they want it. Over 50% of the registered voters in Labrador have signed a document, notarized, that says, we know nuclear is controversial. Some people say it's not safe, but we believe it's safe, and we believe that it can help our community. And we would want to invite any nuclear entity to locate in our place in exchange for 2 times our 2021 consumption, which is tiny because they're small town, for the entire 80-year life of the nuclear power plant. 2 times their 2021 consumption for every 1,000 megawatts located there for the 80-year life of the nuclear plant. And there was a guy behind you that wanted to ask a question.
Hello, good afternoon po. I am LJTV. My question is, coming from the youth or Generation Z, we were not yet born when the nuclear power plant was established. So isn't it a bit of challenge why is education and awareness regarding nuclear energy is important to Filipinos?
Okay?
Isn't it a bit of challenge why is education and awareness regarding nuclear energy is important to Filipinos?
I'll let Mark answer.
Thank you.
So you say the young people of the Philippines were not even alive when that nuclear plant was built. That's true, but it means they weren't even alive when lies started to be told about the nuclear plant. It means you, like me, and the young people of America who are for nuclear energy, we were born after the political defeat of nuclear energy, the marketing defeat from other industries and from anti-nuclear campaigners. They put down their weapons, and in many countries they stopped trying so hard to scare people about nuclear, which means you and me, we grew up in a time without being scared about nuclear, meaning when we first hear about nuclear, we're hearing about it with new ears, and we can weigh what's the good things, what's the bad things, and we can measure it together. It actually means that although, yes, education about nuclear energy is important, the young are starting with a blank slate and immense curiosity. I find it curious, wherever I go in the world, old people say, I don't want nuclear. What about the burden for the young people? And the young people say, I have an entire lifetime. I need a career. I want to raise a family. I want a better world. Of course I want nuclear. So you have the older people saying, we don't want this burden on the young, and the young saying, the burden is not having the nuclear plants. So, education is important, but it's easier and faster than you think, because the anti-nuclear information is not out there among the young people like it was in the past, and it means they can hear with new ears for the first time and make judgments for themselves how they would like to lead their lives, how they would like to leave a better heritage eventually for their children.
Also, the physics is on our side, the science is on our side, the evidence, the facts are on our side. You know? A lot of this false narrative was born in the 70s, the generation that preceded mine. And these were the hippies of the time. I don't know if you know about them. They protested nuclear, and they had an ideal view of the world. They said they wanted to live in communes. They said they would not. They were against corporate America. They were against investors, capitalists. They were against capitalism, right? And they said we will never consume that much electricity because we're going to live simple lives. Guess what? When they became rich, they forgot all about that and they consumed electricity like like there was no tomorrow. So what happened? Because they succeeded in demonizing nuclear, they built coal plants. And now they blame themselves for global warming and climate change. And so that's why a lot of them are turned around now. They realize their mistake and they want to recover from that. So, it's changing. The thinking is changing in the entire world. The only question, where will Filipinos be? Will we be Ulela? Or are we going to finally wake up? We've had a sitting, fully paid for nuclear plant for a long time now. Are we going to use it? Or are we going to build new nuclear to 16,000 megawatts by 2045 or up to 32,000 megawatts by 2045? That's up to us.